the 5th time I've tried recording this review. So, let me get it straight out there. 1. There will be spoilers. 2. I'm spitballing this, and I suck at spitballing reviews. I suck at even writing reviews. So, this one will not be as good as my other book reviews, but we'll make do. Okay, so, for those of you that have been following my vlogs, you've probably realized that I have issues finishing books. Not just in a timely manner, but just finishing them in general. But I have been lucky enough to find a book that I finished within a day just because it was that book. It was that good. This book was The King Chronicles, Book 3, The Serpent Shadow by Rick Riordan. And before I get into my review, I will read the synopsis from the back of the book. He's back! Despite their best efforts, Carter and Sadie Kane can't seem to keep Apophis, the Chaos Snake, down. Now Apophis is threatening to plunge the world into eternal darkness, and the Kanes are faced with the impossible task of having to destroy him once and for all. Unfortunately, the magicians of the House of Life are on the brink of civil war, the gods are divided, and the young initiates of Brooklyn House stand almost alone against the forces of chaos. The King's only hope is an ancient spell that might turn the Serpent's own shadow into a weapon, but the magic has been lost for a millennia. To find the answers they need, the Kanes must rely on the murderous ghost of a powerful magician who might be able to lead them to the Serpent's shadow, or might lead them to their deaths in the depths of the underworld. Nothing less than the mortal world is at stake when the Kane family fulfills its destiny in this thrilling conclusion to the Kane Chronicles. Now, I'm not exactly sure what I was expecting when I went into this book. There were certain traits I was expecting because it is Rick Riordan and I've read enough of him to expect certain things. For instance, the titles of his chapters. I've come to expect really funny and witty titles from him, and I wasn't disappointed in that. The humor was all there, and just the overall arcing good versus evil thing that I've come to expect from 99.9% of books was there. I didn't really have anything specific that I was expecting to happen other than the, save the world kind of thing, which obviously it's a kid's book. Like, you can't not have the main character save the world. That's just writing in general. So I didn't have any expectations. By this point I had kind of forgotten about certain things because I'm not as into this series as I am his other series, his Olympus series. So because I'm not as into it, I did forget about a lot of the relationships and a lot of the characters in it. So, like I said, I didn't have anything specific that I was expecting, but they were just general things about his style that I was expecting. So I was in no way disappointed. This book picks up 6 months after the end of the second one, and it is explained in there the time frame and why he was waiting so long. That's actually one of the things they discussed, is why is this taking so long for Apophis to attack. He was doing small attacks, but they expected him to kind of try and take over immediately. So this book, excuse me, it gets pretty intense pretty fast. We actually open with a mission that the Canes and their main team are undertaking, and the main team was established in the second book, and it includes not just the Carters, or not just the Canes, but Walt, Jazz, Felix, and Khufu. I believe there is one other girl, but I cannot for the life of me remember her name, but she is the Earth Magician who followed the path of Jeb, I believe is how you pronounce the god's name. So we start off with those characters, and we actually meet some new characters. They're minor side characters that actually don't last past the first couple pages, unfortunately. But we start with them. They have to protect this scroll that Apophis is destroying all the copies of this very specific scroll, and they're trying to protect it, which ultimately fails. But they do save this box that holds a clue to how they can defeat Apophis. The whole book is them figuring out what this is and how to obtain and work the magic that is being hinted at in the first couple pages, and they figure it out pretty quickly. They figure out what they need pretty quickly because Bast sort of tells them. She doesn't reveal much, but she reveals enough to get them started. And what it is parts of the Egyptian soul. According to the Egyptians, your soul has 5 parts. I don't know if I'm going to get this right, but there's the Ba, the Sen. Okay, I'm not even going to try. But there's 5 parts of your soul, and mainly they talk about 4 parts. And so the 5th part is the shadow of the soul, which is basically a kind of like a representation of your entirety, but it's more than that. The way they explain it in the book is it's like a backup of a hard drive, and it can even be used like a backup hard drive to restart the soul if something, if there's enough reason to. So the way they're thinking, they're like, alright, if it can be used to restart a soul, can it be used to completely destroy something? So they're basically on a mission to figure out the spells to do this and to find Apophis' shadow. Throughout the adventure, we're introduced to a few new characters. Many of them are gods, the old gods, who are living at the Sunny Acres, I believe it's called, retirement home. And although those gods don't really play an important role individually together, they actually do come in at a very pivotal moment and basically save the day. And then we're also introduced to a character who Sadie deems Uncle Vinny, because he reminded her so much of a guy from an old mafia movie. And this is that malicious ghost of a very powerful and very warped magician. He actually turns out to be the son of Ramses the Great, and he's very bitter about that. So that's one of the reasons why he did the things he did, because he wanted to get out of his father's shadow. See, shadow. Overarching theme. I love that theme because it's not just talking about the part of the soul's shadow, it's also talking about living in somebody's shadow. Throughout this series, we've had, when we've been in Carter's mind, we've been able to see that he does doubt himself so much, and that he constantly wishes his father was there, because his father was a really great, smart man and always knew what to do, and Carter just doesn't feel like he can live up to that. He constantly wishes his dad was there to tell him what to do, to show him the right things to do, to make the right decisions when Carter doesn't feel like he is. And part of this story is about Carter growing into his own and coming out of his father's shadow and really becoming his own person without his father there, and becoming a great leader without having to look to his dad for everything. And that was one of the main themes of the books, and I just really liked it. It's not something I can connect to personally, because I really, being an older sibling especially, I don't fall, I'm not really in anyone's shadow, and my field that I want to go into is vastly different from what my parents ended up doing. So besides things like grades, like, I'm not really in anyone's shadow, but it was definitely a really cool thing to see Carter's character arc, and how even towards the end of the book, how he's still doubting himself, and in those final moments he really comes through and is like, you know what, my friends believe in me, my sister believes in me, I need to believe in me, and he really comes through at the last minute. Other character arcs that we see are Zia Rashid's character arc, especially coming from the other books, where you find out that she actually wasn't, the one we saw in the previous books actually wasn't the real Zia, and it was just a lookalike, used to make everyone think that she was there when she was actually in a stasis being protected. And just seeing her come full circle into realizing that she does have feelings for Carter, even though Carter fell in love with her Shapti, which was the lookalike. That was a really nice character arc. I like seeing that relationship come full circle. She was a distraction for Carter a lot of the time throughout the entire series, and it was just really cool to see her come into her own and not just be this distracting love interest, but actually have a really big part. She had a huge part, and I honestly did see it coming from a mile away. I guessed it fairly early on, but it's not something that was just like, oh, well, that's boring now because I know what it is. Turns out that she was actually the host of Raw, which is actually really obvious, considering her firepower and the way Ra reacted to her. But it was very interesting to see her come to terms with that and learn how to control it. Even though she didn't fully learn how to control it, she kind of did, and it was really interesting to see that. And then from Zia, there is Sadie's relationship, plural, with both Walt and Anubis. And I'm not sure how I feel about the solution. I don't have a problem with it. In theory, I suppose I understand why Sadie did at first, but honestly, I don't get why she was complaining. Because basically what it was is Walt was dying, and he had chosen the path of Anubis. And so he and Anubis came to an agreement that when the time for Walt to die came, Anubis would take Walt on as a host. Because Anubis couldn't be with Sadie because gods could only be with mortals when they had a human host, and because Anubis, being the god of the dead, he had never taken on a human host. And so with that solution, it was basically combining the two men she loved into one, and she flipped her shit, and I'm like, girl, okay, you have these two guys who love you so much that they're willing to join together as one so that they can both be with you. Like, why are you flipping out? Like, I'd be okay with that. I do suppose I see where a normal person would flip out. I honestly can't say if I would or wouldn't, because that scenario is just so out there that it's not something I can accurately assess my reaction to. But she did come to grips with it, and I actually think it's really cute because they're both like, I can't live without her, and there's no other way either of us will be with her. So it was actually really cool. What I liked about the final battle is that it wasn't over quickly. There are a lot of times where I read books and there's this huge build up to the final villain and the final battle, and then it's over so quickly, and you're like, why did that take so much build up? Why did that take so much training? That seemed really easy. But there was a lot of sacrifice. There's a lot of different levels of fighting because of the world he has set up in this, where there is the mortal world, and then there's the duat, which is basically the spirit world, and it just goes, there's many, 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 many layers of it on for eternity. And so there was fighting on so many different levels of reality, and basically everyone was at their end when the Canes finally used the spell and was able to defeat Apophis. And what I liked about it, because one of the major themes in this book was the balance of good and evil, chaos, and the opposite of chaos. The word escapes my mind right now. I'm just blanking on it. They call it Mont. And once they completely destroyed Apophis, and chaos made by him was gone from the world. He's a primordial god of chaos, so once he was gone, the Egyptian gods had to go too, because it's just a balance. And I really, really like that he wasn't going to let good like completely win by letting the gods be able to go back and forth easily and all that. But that being said, Anubis was still allowed to travel, A, because he's the god of death. Without him, there's no death. And B, because he has taken on a human host. And the kids, they actually were able to go down and see their parents once more, but they won't be able to do it a lot like they used to. Not that they were down there a lot in the first place, but like now it's even trickier to do. And wrapping things up it made me really happy to see everything get wrapped up. Seeing Carter take on his role as Pharaoh, because he was Horus's host, and Ra passed the flail and crook, which are the sign of the pharaohs, to Horus and Carter. And so seeing him take on the mantle of Pharaoh and finally be comfortable as a leader was really, really gratifying. I felt Carter had the best story arc throughout the entire series. And a lot of the other things that wrapped up were just like God's relationships with each other and things like that. And what I liked about the ending is that while it tied everything up nicely, there are still loose ends that he can go back to if he wanted to make a companion series like he did with the Percy Jackson series. And that's actually a really, really exciting prospect for me. I would definitely pick them up and read them and own them and just devour them, because I love this series so much. And if that doesn't happen, it's a really good place for fans to grab hold of and make their own and just figure out for themselves what would come next. And I really love when authors do that, because as much as I love things being in a neat little package, just perfectly wrapped up, bow and everything, I also love when they leave certain things open and you can just go in there and be like, well, if I were writing my next adventure, this is what I would do. And I think that's just great. And I'm definitely already coming up with my own ideas. Overall, this book was supremely entertaining. As I said, I stayed up till the crack of dawn finishing it because I just could not put it down, and that's kind of rare in a book for me. So it was a great ending to the series. Just classic Riordan writing as usual, from the humor to the references, just to the wording basically. And on a scale from 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest, I'm gonna give this book a 9, because while I did really, really, really enjoy it, and I do love it, and it is definitely worthwhile reading again. It's not his best work. Maybe it's just because I'm so attached to the Olympus series, but it didn't give me the same. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Feelings I get when I read his Olympus series. It wasn't disappointing at all. At all. I loved every bit of it. Every bit of it. But like I said, it's not my favorite of his. One more final thing I have to add, because I realized this and I just flipped out because this just does not happen. I don't like any of his villains. Like, I mean, okay, here's the thing. I'm a villain fangirl. You put an evil psychopath on the screen and 9 times out of 10, this girl will fall for them. I don't know what to tell you when it comes to literature and film and TV. I just have a soft spot for the baddies. Can't say why. I'm not like that in real life, but when it comes to my fake evils, yep, give me more of that, please. And I just did not care for any of the villains. I was sad to see what they got. And I don't even like Set, who's the god of chaos. I'm like, dude, you just need to get the fuck off my page. Just go away. I don't want to read about you. Whereas in the Olympus series, all of the more chaotic gods like Ares, I'm all over. Just, yep, please. But in this one, no. So I say kudos to you, Riordan. But yes, so that is my rambling review, or like a synopsis of The Kane Chronicles, Book 3, The Serpent Shadow. I promise you my other reviews will be more structured because I will be focusing on one thing and more in depth. Now these reviews that I'm talking about, that I'm going to be doing, if you were watching my vlogs, then you probably noticed at the end I started teasing this thing called the epithets. And what that is it is actually a collaboration channel with me and 3 other girls. And what we're going to be doing, we're going to be reading a book a week over the summer and reviewing them in depth. We each have a day and we each have a certain thing that we are going to be reviewing, such as themes, characters, stuff like that. And it's an ambitious project that I'm really excited to undertake, and I hope you all will come along for the journey. I will link the introduction video. It's just a real quick text video explaining what we are, what we're doing, and I will link that right here. So I hope you guys watch it, and I hope you subscribe to us, because we will be starting on Monday, May 14th, just next Monday, and I'm really excited. And you can look forward to more thoughtful, more insightful reviews than this. And I hope you guys enjoy it. So, bye!